Big Friday night game in Eugene. Big Ten action after dark. Michigan State, Oregon conference game. It sounds so weird to say, Ari.
Yeah. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. I'm getting used to it. But the thing that you have to say even more than a conference game here, Andy, this is a Friday night grab ass special of the week. So, you know, you got to take, do you have to take it into account when talking about how a player is going to perform, that they're playing on Friday night in a game that has the setting for things to go off the rails?
Oh, absolutely. No question, because that's one of the things that affects these things. Like Kyron Drones, the Virginia Tech quarterback, had an incredible game against Miami, was better than he'd been all season. And that's a big reason that Virginia Tech was in this game against Miami. So we're talking about Dillon Gabriel here for Oregon right now. And Dillon Gabriel is the guy that we expect to be the most consistent person. Aiden Childs, the Michigan State quarterback, he's got flashes of brilliance, but then he just, you know, at times does not look like he's quite ready. You know, he'll make mistakes. Dillon Gabriel does not make a lot of mistakes. And I think that's one thing that makes me wonder if this will be a grab ass special, because Dillon Gabriel just doesn't put the ball in harm's way all that much. This is one of the more accurate quarterbacks in America. We're talking about Dillon Gabriel's prize picks number in this one, Ari, and his passing yardage number here is 290.5. So prize picks, for those who don't know, best daily fantasy game in America. Sign up for it. Use the code Staples. Play $5. Get $50 instantly. You play squares. You pick at least two. You can pick more than two. The more you pick, the higher the potential payout. You're deciding whether you think players will have more than or less than certain statistical categories. So in passing yardage for Dillon Gabriel, the number is 290.5. And I've been going over his games. Now, he's had more than that in two games. The Idaho game and the Oregon State game. Obviously, Michigan State is going to have a little bit better defense than those guys. One thing to consider, Jonathan Smith and his staff, the Michigan State football staff, they were at Oregon State last year. They know Will Stein's offense. They had to prepare for them as Oregon State staff when they played in the Civil War. So while it's a different quarterback, because it was obviously Bo Nix for Oregon last year, they're familiar with this offense. But I'm looking at this. Now, he went for 278 yards against UCLA last week in his least accurate game of the year. He only completed 73.8% of his passes, and it was only 6.6 yards per attempt. So this was his least efficient, worst game of the year, and he still almost threw for 280 yards. So I'm saying Dillon Gabriel is going to throw for more than 290.5, because even at his most inconsistent, he's still right there. And if he plays a good game, he's going way over.
Yeah, I went back and I looked at how Will Howard did against Michigan State last week at home. And just if you had to guess, based on the fact that that was a blowout, where do you think Will Howard just finished in his
I actually looked this up because I was looking up Michigan State's defensive stats just to see how good they were in the pass against the passing game. And they held Will Howard to 7.5 yards per attempt, which I thought was pretty interesting. Now, he still threw for almost 300 yards. So he threw for 298. So this is a game. And the thing is with Oregon.
Well, actually, Andy, I don't want to correct you here, but I got to. Will Howard threw for 244, but he didn't play the whole game. They threw for 298 passing yards in the game. So that's correct. Right. But Devin Brown and Julian Sayin, the 5-star freshman, also completed passes. But you still have to take it into account.
The crazy Jeremiah Smith catch was Devin Brown.
You do have to take it into account, though, that they gave up 300 yards of receiving. So I just wanted to make sure that we got that
in a game where they actually made Ohio State less efficient than they usually are in the pass game. So that's what I'm saying. This 290.5 feels pretty easy to reach, because even if they make Oregon less efficient than they usually are, they're still going to be able to get to that number. And here's why. Oregon, when they can't run the ball as successfully, obviously has to throw more. And Michigan State has been fairly successful against the run. Now, they gave up 5 yards a carry against Ohio State, but that's Ohio State. They have probably the best 1-2 punch of backs in the country. Oregon has a decent running game. I don't know that it's as good as Ohio State's. I think Michigan State will probably frustrate Oregon a little bit on the ground, force Oregon to go to the air, and Oregon's going to throw all over them.
Yeah, and also too, if it turns into a weird game where Oregon's losing in the third quarter, they'll be passing for 4 quarters. So I don't know if I think that's going to happen, but I do think that Michigan State did a really good job of limiting Ohio State to really long, explosive pass plays. If you go back and look at their touchdowns, I don't think that any of them were further away from than 35 yards off the top of my head. But I do think that this is an opportunity for Dillon to rack up some yardage here.
Yeah. So, and this is the last one before they play Ohio State. So Dillon Gabriel needs to be at his best going into that game. This is a big time chance to tune up for that game, but it's also a conference game. It's one you got to worry about. It's Friday night, as you said, high potential for grab ass. Cannot wait to watch.